on Now at 11, if you drive through Hoover, you may have seen the beautiful Deodar cedar trees, but you may not know what a role they played in the city's history. So here today to tell us about these trees and why they're so special, Hoover Urban Forester Colin Connor and Brian Hale from the Hoover Police Department. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you.
And I didn't know you knew all this about trees.
A little bit, just enough to be dangerous.
Well, tell us about this Deodar cedar tree.
Okay, so how we got here was on our social media accounts. We engage the community as much as we possibly can. And so some Thursdays we like to do Throwback Thursday posts, where it started out, we're looking at, we're comparing old police cars and looking at the old police chief and old buildings. But then as we started doing it, I started looking at the Hoover history. And there's so many folks that have moved in the Hoover area that have no idea where the city's come from. And so prior to 1967, when the city was incorporated, it dates back to 1850s.
Oh, wow.
And so when we're looking at street names, you got Patton Chapel, you've got the Ross Bridge neighborhood, you've got Brock's Gap, names that we're all familiar with. When I saw Deodar Drive, I just wondered where that came from. So doing my research, I found out that the Deodar cedar tree was one of Mr. Hoover's favorite trees.
Aww.
So when they were founding the city in 1967, it was his goal to have one of those cedar trees planted in each yard.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty special. And now you know a little bit about the history. Colin, what makes these trees so special?
It's not native to North America, native to the Himalayas, one of 4 true cedars, so it has some interesting kind of growth and identification characteristics. It's a really cool living Christmas tree in a lot of front yards. We had one planted at City Hall for a period of time.
Oh, wow.
It's just a unique tree, something that catches your eye in the Alabama landscape, something you're not necessarily used to seeing.
Does it do okay in our weather since it's not native to us?
Pretty well. They tend to have, for whatever reason, all of the trees in Hoover at some point in time lost their top. Maybe some kind of fungal infection, but they continue to grow. It changes the shape somewhat, but the trees are still alive and healthy.
So now, Brian, this is Deodar Drive. We're seeing that sign there. Is that the only one, I guess, in that area? Or
no, ironically, on a rainy day a couple of years ago, Colin and I drove through the Star Lake, Green Valley area, and we found that day 8. At least as of right now, there might be more that we know that are still living. So, so not only a fun history about a tree in Hoover, but I mean that tells the story of kind of where we came from since 1967.
I love that. Okay, so you mentioned these others. I'm going to put you on the spot. Brock's Gap and Ross Bridge. Where did these names come from?
Well, how much time do we have? All right, so but basically, Ross is from the Ross family. He settled in the area in 1858, and then he ended up selling his land. And of course, that's how we get the Ross Bridge area. Brock's Gap was Pickney Brock, who again, right around 1858, he sold his land to the railroad. They were trying to find their way, the best possible way to get into Jones Valley, which at the time, there was no Birmingham. So Brock's Gap literally paved the way to the founding of the city of Birmingham. So Hoover dates back a long time.
I'm just learning so much. Very interesting facts there, and these Deodar cedar trees are just beautiful and for the area. So we appreciate you both being with us today to share that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.